All right, Magic Makers, it's been a minute since I've done one of these bonus episodes. And so I wanted to come back and do this bonus episode because this question comes up a lot. And it's the difference between weight loss and fat loss. And so many people will say to me, Kim, I want to lose X number of pounds. And I always have to ask the question, why? Like, why do I want to lose the weight? And and the reason why, and it'll come up as I talk about weight loss versus fat loss, is that most people, it's not the number on the scale that they want to change, it is their body composition. And that is more about fat loss. And so if you think about body composition, and I've shared this example before, is that imagine a beach ball, right? We've all seen a beach ball that floats around on the beach. And then we've seen a baseball. So what would you rather be? A beach ball or a baseball? And, if I put, sand or pebbles, whatever, inside of the beach ball and it weighed the same amount, what would you want to be? Would you want to be that beach ball or would you want to be that baseball? And many of you want to be the baseball, right? We want that nice, tight, compact physique. And so, what is the difference? I do have clients who, their doctors are like, oh, if you get down to whatever the weight is, you could come off some type of medication. And then, if, the question I would go back to the doctor and say, what if it wasn't the weight? What if I lost the body fat? Is it the weight that's driving your the need for the medicine, or is it other lifestyle factors that are driving the need for the medication? And I think for many doctors the pat answer is weight, right? I know my husband, he goes to see his doctor, and it's always like, if you lose the weight, if you lose the weight, and it's like a freaking broken record, and it's like he's like, you need to get down to like some weight that is just really challenging for him to try to get down to and live a normal life. Of course, all of us have those little things that, if we move some things around in our nutrition, maybe we would lose the weight, but would we lose enough of the weight that your doctor is asking for? So I am not saying stop taking your medication. Okay, let's just be clear. What I'm saying is, when your doctor says, hey, you need to be to a certain weight, ask the question back instead of just like, doctor so and so, I know. Ask the question back, like, okay, but is it the weight, or are there other lifestyle factors that I could change that could impact me no longer taking said medication or being prescribed said medication? All right, so let me just get back to the subject at hand. So, what's the difference between weight loss and fat loss? Weight loss is your overall body weight, right? It is your relationship to gravity. I step on the scale and it tells me how much gravitational pull is on my body. That is what happens on the scale. Fat loss is specifically comes from your body fat. It is like, we've all seen the, percentages of body fat and all that other stuff. That's what fat is. It just, there's a way to just specifically measure what's muscle, what's your actual bones, and what is body fat. And so, how do we achieve weight loss versus fat loss? Okay, weight loss is literally calories, right? It's like, am I taking in more calories than my body burns? It's just, we can just say, for lack of argument, let's just say it's math, right? It's a math equation, making this number up because I'll do math. So, if my body burns 3,000 calories, and that's what we call our basal metabolic rate, right? So, basal metabolic rate is how much calories energy your body needs to just keep you alive, right? Blink your eyes, to move my hand, to move my mouth, to speak. Like, that's how many calories my body needs. Now, if I eat, again, if I said, if my body needs 3,000 calories, if I eat 3,000 calories, my weight is going to stay the same. It's just going to maintain. If I don't have any other metabolic issues, I don't have any other health issues. If I were to reduce my caloric intake, say by 500 calories, and so I were to eat 2,500 calories versus eating 3,000 calories, eventually I would start to see the scale come down. Now, here's why I don't like this black and white math. One, many of you listening, I'm going to ask you, how many diets have you been on? How many times have you gone up and down in your weight? At some point, after probably the second or third diet that you've been on and you've lost the weight and you gained it back, your body's like, oh, girl, I know. I know what you're doing and I ain't going to give it to you no more. right? And so our body starts to really resist us pushing harder and harder on our calories. And so it's like, nope, I need this weight. I'm holding on to it. I'm not just going to like let you just release it as easily as I did in previous rounds of a diet. And when we lose that weight, if I take away 500 calories, I'm also taking 500 pieces of energy, right? So what does my energy look like? Does it make me more hungry? Does it make me crave more? And when I lose the weight, it's not like I can pick the weight like, oh, I want the weight to come from my butt. I want the weight to come from my abs. No, the weight's like, I'll come from wherever the hell I want to come from. And I'm losing weight in not only um, water, right? Because our bodies are 60% water, but I'm losing weight in my muscles, I'm losing weight in my tissue. Right. So it's like I don't choose where the weight comes from when I go focus on weight loss. Now, when I focus on fat loss, that means I'm really working on proper nutrition for me. So I'm looking at what am I putting into my body? How am I fueling my body? And all of us, if we like, and I know tracking sucks, it sucks. But if I know that if I said, I tracked my food for a solid week and not being like good for that week, to say, okay, what am I putting in my mouth? Drinking, one of the biggest things, I have a client that she's like, Kim, I just can't lose the weight. I just can't lose the weight. And, I follow her on social media and she's like, oh, just had a dirty chai, venti. Oh, just having a grande pumpkin spice latte. And I'm like, girlfriend, that's like 1,000 calories right there. Like there you go. Like if I were to take away those two drinks or to downsize those drinks, then you might be that might be an easier way for you to lose the weight, right? So all of us, if we look at our food objectively, and that's what I do for a lot of clients, I'm like, objectively, like we have such a passion, an attachment to our food. It's like if you take away whatever, it's like, you're gonna pull it from my cold dead hands. That's how I feel about coffee. But there are other foods that I'm like, do I need that? Can I, pull a little bit from here? Probably the answer is yes, right? Many of you heard me talk about non-negotiables, and it's double-sided. It's non-negotiables are for like healthy things, and the non-negotiables that just make your life more sustainable. For me, my number one non-sustainable is coffee. I love a cup of coffee with cream and sugar in the morning. Boom. Take that away from me. I'm like, I will find another place to find my calories, but that's me. That's my jam. So then what also comes to fat loss is that, proper nutrition for you. So it's like really focusing in on our, protein, our fruits, our vegetables, our fiber, our water, finding that tipping point for our carbs, building lean muscle, strength training, making that a priority of strength training. And I'm not talking 3-4 hour workouts. I'm like, you know what? I've just been reading some research and it says that, like if I am consistent for like 15 minutes a day, I could probably get the same amount of volume as I did if I were to do 2 to 3 days of strength training. So I really want you to start to think about like, it's like, what can I do consistently versus I hear it all the time. Kim, I got so busy this weekend. I couldn't do blah, blah, blah. But if we built it in and we're like, can you do 15, 20 minutes? And we found a way to do it in your house where it doesn't require this big, trip to the gym and all the things that come with going to the gym, would you be more consistent? And so what does it really take, to when we lose weight? Like what really happens when I lose weight? So 60% of our bodies is water. So the primary thing that I lose is water. So when those of you who step on the scale and every day and you're like 1 week, again, making up these numbers just because it's just easier. 1 week you're 150. 1 week you're or one day you're 150. One day you're 155. One day you're 140. Like, one day you're 145, right? And so your weight just could wildly fluctuate. But a lot of that, it could be your hormones, right? It could be that time of the month for you. Maybe you had a really salty meal the night before. Maybe you had a high carb meal the night before. Maybe you're not sleeping well. Maybe you overtrain and your body is full inflamed from, the overtraining that you've been doing. And and I hear people like, I went on keto and I lost 4 million pounds in 2 days. Well, this is why you lost weight doing keto. You pulled away your carbs. And when you pull away your carbs chase water. So for every gram that you have of carbohydrate, you have 3 grams of water attached to it, right? So of course, when I pull out my carbs, I lose 3 grams of water. And so of course I'm going to see the weight. But as soon as I start to put the carbs back into my body, I'm going to see my weight, boom, take a peak, just start that climb, and then it's going to mess with your head. And so, when we do that when your doctor says, well, if you're going to lose the weight, you just got to eat less. And that's the whole, just eat less, and I gave you that example, like, if I need 3,000 calories, I go to 2,500, like in theory, yeah, that works. But what that does is your body starts to tap into your glycogen stores. And so depending on you, again, everyone is a special snowflake when it comes to this, depending on you, I might have glycogen floating around in my bloodstream. So it's going to pull it out of my bloodstream. I might have it stored in my liver. So it's going to pull it from there. Or it might pull it from my muscles, right? So it's like, and then eventually, like, your body likes to do things the easy way. So it's like, what's the easiest place for me to pull the muscle from? That's right, pull the glycogen from. So it's like, if it's in my bloodstream, that's fast, that's easy. I don't have to break it down because it's already floating around. Then it's like, okay, it comes from my liver, muscle, and then fat, right? Because it's like fat's in storage. So I have to go, chip it away. If I have those 3 sources are pretty easy for me to grab. So when it comes to fat loss, sustainable fat loss, and this is what, most of us want. Most of us, most people come to me and say they want weight loss because that's all we've been trained to think about. We've been trained about like what happens to that scale. But what most people really want is that they want they want that tight baseball, right? They are looking for that nice tight baseball so that like their pants easily buttoned, that they look good naked, right? That's what we really want. Like, no one's going to be like, girl, you look like you weigh 140 pounds. How you doing? No one's gonna say that to you. I mean, if they do, rock on with your bad self. But like, if someone were to ask me how much does that person weigh, I'd be like, oh, I got nothing. I don't know, 400 pounds. I'm like, I got nothing. Like, I wouldn't say 400 pounds. I know they'd be like, girl, I'm not a car. But no one's gonna come up to you and say that. So when it comes to like, how do we really start with this fat loss philosophy? It's um it comes down to figuring out how much body fat we have. And like we have DEXA scales. That's, DEXA scales are probably the most accurate next to the bod pod. And most of us don't really have access to either of those. Some of those can be a little pricey to that. We also have some gyms have the in-body scan machines, and that can be a little more cost effective way to measure it. You can also use, there's calipers. Back when I was in the gym as a personal trainer, I used to do caliper testing probably once every 12 weeks with my clients. But now, we have smart scales. The one thing about the smart scale is that if you are dehydrated or overhydrated, it can throw the numbers off a little bit, or if you just exercise. So you have to be like very specific as to when you step on that scale so that you get as accurate as possible. Now, this isn't, just like any health tracker that we have, your Fitbit, your smartwatch, whatever. It is just data. It's not like science. It's data for you to make this better decisions, but it's not like you went to some like, medical facility, right? I always tell people, you're using I usually use my Fitbit for my sleep just to be like, am I consistent with my sleep? Like sometimes I'm just laying in bed reading and I'm just not moving. So my Fitbit thinks I've already gone to bed, but I'm like, I know that I've rolled over and I look at my clock and it's a certain time. And when I look at my Fitbit, it's like, oh, you went to bed at 9:30. I'm like, no, I actually went to bed at 10:05 because I looked at my clock before I went to bed. So I want you to start to just use it as data and not this like, it must be, this is the gospel. It's come down, on the freaking tablets. It's like been like tablets from Mount Sinai. Another way to measure if you don't have access to a smart scale or calipers or the DEXA is waist circumference, right? Just around your belly button, like where your belly button is, and then right around the widest part of your butt, and you just be able to see what your hip to waist ratio is, and that way you can kind of start to better determine what's going on with you. Are you losing? Are you gaining? What's going on? And as you start to say, oh yeah, Kim, this makes sense. I'm sick of the up and down of the scale. To lose the fat, you start to focus in on protein and strength training. And I know for so many people, like you've heard, millions of people talk about this protein. Protein, the reason why we say protein is that it is the most satiating of the macronutrients. Bottom line, end of story. Don't get past go. It takes me longer to digest a 6-ounce chicken breast than it does for me to digest the same calorie caloric like the same caloric portion of donuts, right? If I take 6 ounces of protein and I take uh, the same equivalent of calories in donuts, I'm going to be hungrier faster. My body's going to be like, "Woo, that's a party. Send out the insulin. What's next?" Where with a chicken breast, it's just going to be chunking along, trying to digest that for a couple hours. And so that way, that's why we always say focus in on the protein because it makes you feel fuller longer. And then we can add in other foods. We can add in, vegetables. We can add in other starchy carbohydrates. We can add in good fats. Strength training, it's just that as we age, we lose 3 to 5% of our muscle mass just by the natural aging process. So I want you to think about like this helps me with acts of daily living. Maybe not now, but many of us hope to make it to our 80th birthday. So we got 40 more years that I don't know about you, but my goal is to be able to stand upright and not need a walker or a cane or anything like that. I want to be able to get off the damn toilet without needing a handrail. I want to be able to walk up and down up some stairs if I choose without having to take two at a time and catch my breath. So start to think about like the long game versus the short game. Because like right now, if you climb a flight of stairs, are you winded? Because like that's only going to get worse. Just throwing it out there. And so we also want to start, coming up with like a small caloric deficit, not this like I'm getting rid of, and you create this laundry list of food that you're no longer going to have. We're going to start to be more judicious. That's the word, judicious about where we pull from. And so one of the examples is I had a client and she loved this restaurant called Cava, and it's a chain and it's a salad chain. And so, it's similar to if you've ever been to like Chipotle, and like you go to Chipotle and you say what you want, and then like you go through and they're like, do you want some rice? White or brown? Do you want beans? Black or pinto, right? So kava is pretty much the same thing. And so when she went through, she was like, you know what? She's like, I love this so much, but do I need the rice? And so she said, it started out with, instead of saying no rice, she said, you know what? Give me a half a portion of rice. Then she's like, you know what, it wasn't so bad. She's like, well, maybe I'm going to take away the rice completely. Took away the rice completely, but still had the same experience at the restaurant. So I want you to think about like it was just a small thing that she took away, but it wasn't this like I'm never going to kava, and then I'm only going to get greens and protein. Like she was like, I still can have the experience, but what are some of the things in the experience that I can remove? Or, you go out to dinner and, they give you, a protein, a vegetable, and a starch. And you can say, you could do half the starch or no starch, double the vegetable, right? Or double the protein and double the vegetable, right? Whatever it is, but it's like you're making these small, like micro adjustments to your nutrition. Another example, and something that I'm considering is, I love half and half. That's my jam. Bring it on. But I had another client who's like, should I go with like nut milk or, and I was like, for me, it just doesn't have that creaminess, right? That's why I like half and half. It gives me that creaminess. And so one of the things I'm experimenting with is if I went to whole milk, but I frothed it, like, would it give me that, like that richness of half and half and maybe shave a few calories off, right? But still give me that experience, still give me that satisfaction, but not all of the, maybe I save 5 or 10 calories, right? But it's not extreme. It's still gives me my satisfaction factor because that's huge. I can't I can't be drinking the coffee and being like, this sucks. I need something else. Because I will, I've talked about this before. I would go, your brain wants to go into seek mode. It's like, I thought this was coffee and it ain't freaking coffee. So I'm going to be out trying to chase that flavor of coffee. The other thing here is prior to sleep. I know so many of you are like, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or oh, I'm a bad sleeper. But is it have we gotten down our sleep mechanics, right? I want you to think about, if you have children or if you've seen people put their kids to bed, there's a ritual, right? It's like, there's tubby time, and then the stuffed animals have to be arranged a certain way. Then, there's, 2 stories or 3 stories or whatever the heck. How do you create that for you so that your body starts to says, oh, it's time for us to sunset. It's time for us to start to like chill out and get our butts to bed. And then, workouts, right? Everyone's always talking about workouts. And one of the things I'm reading about is like shorter duration workouts, but more intense. So that what if my workout was like 20 minutes? And I want you to think about CrossFit, right? Whatever you say about CrossFit, their workouts are really only, 15, 20 minutes max, right? It's like get in, get out. And on the other side of the workout, it's like they have a warm up, so they're doing some foam rolling, they're doing some warm up. Then they have the meat of the workout, and then they're doing some, they might find a skills work. That's what I'm looking for. Skills work. Like, I want to do a handstand or, get my first pull up. But the bulk of the workout is about 15, 20 minutes long. And so for many of you, it is about adherence, right? I remember when I first started training, it was like, oh gosh, if you're not doing a workout for an hour, like why even go? Like that was my mindset. But now I'm like, you know what? Over the last few years, like just time, right? How many of us are like, oh, I got the time that I had when I was 25? No, we got kids, we got jobs, we got aging parents, we got spouses. So if I was able to do 15 minutes, but man, what if I could get that 15 minutes done at my house, right? Would I be more consistent? Right. Because it's not, you can think about it. Oh, you got to find the time to drive to the gym. Right. So it's like maybe you live 20 minutes from the gym. And then I got to, park the car, walk inside the gym, change my clothes if it's winter time, right? I live in New England. So yeah, change my clothes, then get my workout in. Right. And you're like, it took me 20 minutes to get here. I'm gonna get all I can out of the gym. But so yeah, so maybe a couple times a week you do that. But what if a couple times a week you're like, you know what? I can get this done. And this is someone who's I'm a gym rat, like straight up gym rat. But you know, um, COVID has forced me to really reevaluate my workout. And I like working out at home. I get my cup of coffee. I'm drinking my coffee while I'm foam rolling, and it's like it allows me to like take back 40 minutes out of my day that I can like literally go downstairs, get it done. I'm not waiting for a machine. I'm not waiting, hoping that someone doesn't get on the good squat rack. Right. So really when you start to think about what am I looking for? Fat loss or weight loss? And so in the mastering cracking the belly fat code class that I'm teaching on the 3rd of November, I'm really taking a deep dive into how do we just zero in on belly fat, right? How do we, as a 40-year-old woman, we have this unexplained weight gain, we have this freaking belly that just want to like punch in the face. How do we punch it in the face, do it in a sustainable way so that, we look in the mirror and we're like, yeah, girl, I got it going on. If that sounds of interest for you, do me a favor, make sure you hop on the list so that you can get all the information when I do it live on November 30th. All right, ladies, thank you so much for listening, and let me know how this has landed with you. Like, what are you thinking? Fat loss, weight loss? Is there anything else that you are confused about? All right, enjoy the rest of your day.